Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Wednesday afternoon. We got a lot more Texas football to get into today as we start to get ready for Alabama. Going to Alabama on Saturday. Going to be a big game. We'll talk more about that. Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. Jerry Hamilton was on E and Rob B. Hook him up this morning. We'll get to some of that audio talking about the recruiting at Texas and Alabama. Get into a little bit more NFL news, some NFL predictions. Get us ready for NFL starting tomorrow, Thursday. Chiefs and Lions, all of that. And your text, 512-337-3776. 512-337-3776 is the text line. Join us on there. Join the conversation. And we'll be reading those throughout as well. But let's get to some sound and some talk about the Texas Longhorns taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide on Saturday. It is the conversation of most people right now. In either place. I think both Alabama and Texas, as much as Alabama doesn't want to, lower themselves to Texas level in their eyes. I think that they know this year, after last year was so close, they want to make a statement. They know that the SEC, after we saw what happened to LSU, after we saw what happened to Florida, that they want to stick out, that they're ready to be back and take their place. They're not happy that Georgia's been there for a couple of years as the national champions. They want to take their crown back, so they want to make a statement against Texas. But this is a big game for both teams in a lot of ways. For Alabama, this is kind of a statement, just get back to where they were. For Texas, you're not going to say this is a weird back game. It's not, because week 2 doesn't, there's not a lot riding. I mean, there's a lot riding on it, but this doesn't knock you out of a college football playoff spot at all. And in college football, every game has to matter at that level for it to have that full impact on your season. It's not fully there for Texas or for Alabama. They can still, if they run and win their conference, they're still in the college football playoff if they don't lose another game. But when you're trying to judge where your team is, when you're trying to judge recruiting-wise, it is going to be a huge game. We'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment. But when you just look at a guy like Quinn Ewers and his confidence going into the rest of this season, if Quinn Ewers comes out, stays in the whole game, plays like he did at the beginning of Alabama last year, if he can come out and have that statement game in prime time against a top-tier defense, it changes the narrative about him for the rest of the season, and that helps change it for the entire rest of the team. Because if you can get Quinn Ewers to be playing at a higher level, and part of that goes on to Sark and what he's able to do of putting Quinn in a position to win. We talk about Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, what they're able to do with different quarterbacks and rotating quarterbacks, because it's a extremely quarterback-friendly system. Sark doesn't always run that, because Sark runs what he wants to run if he was the quarterback. He's a quarterback. He wants to run his offense, and that's what he thinks he could do. So you want to see Quinn Ewers, you want to work with him together to put him in that position. And I think when you look at what Colorado did to TCU, you're going to want to try and do a little bit of that, of just trying to find and take what Alabama gives you. They're not going to give you a bunch. They're a better defense than TCU is, so they're going to give you, they're not going to give you a ton, but you're going to have to go in and find those pieces and work to make those a usable sample size to get you down the field. You're going to need the running game, sure. You're going to need your receivers. We got some sound of Sark talking about his receivers. I'll play for you in just a second. But you're going to need Quinn Ewers to play at a higher level, because if Quinn Ewers can play at that higher level, then it changes the dynamic for the rest of the season to stopping Quinn Ewers first and then allowing your running backs to get a little bit more space, allowing your deep game to then open up further. And I know, he's not a great deep ball passer, has not shown the ability yet, at least, to be a great deep ball passer. So if you can shift it to get everybody so worried that you're pulling safeties in, then you can throw it back over the top. And that's what Sark wants to do. But really what you want to see is Quinn Ewers be so dominant on the short game, in the intermediate game, hitting guys on the sideline, finding guys that are open, going through his progressions, that you're going to be able to see then single coverage in the downfield, and that's where Sark may be able to get those balls that he wants to have in explosive plays. I just want to see Quinn step up and play like he did at the beginning of that game when it's man coverage and trusting his receivers, because we know Texas has the receivers. We know that Xavier Worthy came back and looked like the Xavier Worthy we had seen his freshman season, and at parts of last season, not the end, but what different parts of it. We saw that Xavier Worthy. Here's Sark talking about Xavier Worthy at his press conference Monday to give you an idea of how you feel of a guy that's been through a lot. And, some people kind of wrote off after last season. To see him come out of Rice, he needs to have a big game on Saturday. But here's what Steve Sarkisian had to say about Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I think, I'm glad you guys kind of got a glimpse of that Saturday. I just feel like he's had an awesome offseason. He really has recommitted himself to his regiment, to his teammates, to the program. I think the guy's having more fun now than he's ever had here playing football. And I think he's playing fast with energy. I think he's got good leadership. And quite frankly, in the third quarter, I felt like he kind of ignited the offense with the punt return. He made a couple nice plays on the perimeter. Then ultimately that opens up AD for a touchdown. It opens up JT for a touchdown. And so I just think what he's providing day in and day out, nothing changes for him. He's the first guy on the practice field every day. He's one of the last ones to leave. He sits in the front row in every meeting. He takes great notes. But the personality of him is really back out. He's smiling so much more. You can almost feel like there's a weight lifted off his shoulders, and he's enjoying playing the game. And he's reaping the benefits of it, but we are too. Yeah, we're getting the best version of him right now, which is a really good version.
And that's what you want to see from Xavier Worthy. And that's why you need to have, when you talk about Quinn Ewers having a big game, you need Xavier Worthy. You need your star players to play in this game at a level that sets the tone for the rest of the season. That sets the tone for everybody else on this roster. That sets the tone for this team. And Xavier Worthy, to see him come out and play and be smiling and to be happy after the season he had last year, and you can say during the offseason he works hard. We know, and a lot of guys do. There's a lot of these times he's in the front of every meeting. Go, yeah, well, that's everybody else, and he gets to claim it because he's the star player. And so if someone else is in his seat, he gets to go take it back. I think that's – you can only take that so far. You have to see it on the field as well. So you want to see that. But I think there's a lot of guys who can practice well. You want to be able to see it on the field. You want to be able to see him get out there. And he didn't necessarily have the most explosive plays because Rice allowed some stuff underneath. They didn't want to get killed over the top. So they allowed some stuff underneath. They were bringing a lot of pressure where you were able to get man-on-man. He's getting out there. You like to be able to see him take advantage of one-on-one matchups because you feel he's going to be able to have some. Because not only do you have Xavier Worthy now, you have Adonai Mitchell. And what he looks like, and we saw him in the spring game look phenomenal. We've seen him against Rice. He looked good at Rice as well. Adonai Mitchell going back, playing in the SEC again, coming from Georgia, understands what this game means, understands what it means to set a precedent early in the season with a big win. Here's what Sark had to say Monday about Adonai Mitchell.
Well, he's been a great addition. I really think AD provides a lot of energy to that receiver room. He's been in the fire. He's been in some big games, made some big plays in big games. So I think he brings kind of some instant credibility, but yet he backs it up with his work ethic and his play. He's very smart. What he provides is now when you start cheating safeties to Xavier, a one-on-one matchup with AD Mitchell's not ideal, and he can make you pay. And so, hopefully as we grow throughout the season, we find that really nice balance of utilizing kind of all three of our frontline guys, with Jay Witt being included, and the tight ends, and then, how we keep bringing along Ajante and those guys so that we can keep continuing to spread the ball around. And there's going to be games where we're going to have to kind of kickstart ourselves like we did Saturday, and we had to kind of get it to Xavier to get us going. But I think the balance of all those guys and then their ability to win one-on-one matchups is going to be big.
And that's where your balance is going to be. And we haven't even thrown in JT Sanders. JT Sanders wasn't hugely in the mix on Saturday, didn't play a ton of snaps, but came out and played well. We didn't see JT Sanders that we saw last year, but I think that's by design. The same way we didn't see Keelan Robinson the same way we did last year. I think that was all by design, and you don't want to show off too much. You can show off Xavier Worthy. Everyone who's watched any Texas football knows Sark is going to use Xavier Worthy. You're not giving up any information whatsoever to Alabama by throwing the ball to Xavier Worthy as many times as you can. I think everybody knew you were going to throw to Adonai Mitchell. You're throwing to Jay Whitmore in this game. I wish you would do it more during the season, but it may go down a little bit just because there's these other wide receivers. But that wide receiver core is going to be able to help Quinn because that wide receiver core can only go as far as a quarterback's going to take. And that's a combination between Quinn Ewers. It's a combination of Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian. You need Sark to be able to call the plays for Quinn. You need Sark to be able to put Quinn in a situation to win in this Alabama game. And we know what Nick Saban is going to do for his quarterback and Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. We know what they're going to do. You need Sark to put Quinn Ewers in a position to not have the wide receivers win, but to have Quinn Ewers win, and we know what the wide receivers can do. We know that the wide receivers, if you put the ball where it needs to be, the odds, the majority of the time, that these wide receivers are going to be able to take care of business. These wide receivers will get the job done. Not 100%. No one's 100%. But they're going to be able to get the job done. They'll be able to get a little bit of separation. Now, he did talk in his press conference that there are some times in that game that the routes weren't perfect. You need to clean that up a little bit. Now, if that's the route they're running in practice and it's the same route and they still not hit him, that's one thing. I think there was, a little bit more physicality. I don't think they want to throw a lot of flags in that game. I don't expect them to throw a ton of flags in this game. I don't expect a lot of flags to be thrown ever. You can't play the kind of Matador offense that was very popular for a few years of underthrowing a lot of deep balls on a third or fourth down because you can get pass interference. I don't think they're going to try and do that as much this year, and Texas is definitely not going to get those calls, so you can't do that. But you can look and put a situation where you have to understand where Quinn is at. And he's in a better place than he was last year because last year he was still coming in this offense. And as great as he looked at the beginning of that game, we didn't get to a second half of Quinn. We didn't get to see a second half adjustments by Alabama. That's what we're seeing now coming out at the beginning of this is second half adjustments. That's what we get to see. Sark was asked, though, about the difference in Quinn this year versus Bama versus last year, as he's got another year to, learning, another year of gameplay underneath him. He knows a little bit better what to expect from Alabama. He knows a little bit better what to expect from himself, from his team. He should be able to read defenses better. Now, we didn't see him read defenses. Him and the O-line did not read defenses great in week one. That's still a question of it doesn't make sense of how bad the reads were, that if it was the communication just wasn't there, or if they were just really trying to focus on fundamentals and were hoping Rice didn't come out and show them that. Like, that's kind of what you have to figure is they said, let's stick to fundamentals in this, and they're not going to throw anything. They're not going to be up there throwing ghost fronts. Why would they do that? Why would they disguise coverage? Why would they disguise blitzes? They don't need to do that. They're Rice. That's not what they do. And that's the only thing you can figure is they were not prepared in the game plan at all for that, which you have to be prepared for now. Luckily, that happens week one. Luckily, Rice does that. It helps you out a lot because now you can be prepared for it going into week two in a big game. But here's Sark talking about the difference in Quinn from last year going into the Alabama game and where everyone's, viewpoint of this game was not the same as it is this year. This year, Texas is expected to win, at least on Texas side. Texas fans want Texas to win this game. Expect Texas to win this game. Expect them to be able to play. Now, no, I don't think they expect them to be a blowout, but they're expecting Texas to have a shot to win this and follow through on that shot. Here's what Sark had to say about Quinn going into year two against Alabama.
I think there's just a level of confidence in Quinn that's different. A year ago, he's making his second career start and probably still learning our offense, quite frankly, and the nuances of our offense. I think there's a level of confidence in him this year around and focused in on, how does he operate plays and in the system in a way to help the other guys and not because he's got a pretty firm grasp of what he's doing. But to me, the biggest thing showed up Saturday with just the maturity, the way he rebounded coming out of halftime after a couple frustrating things. I know the quarterback takes a lot of the brunt of when things aren't just clicking smoothly on offense. But we blew some protections that weren't on him, and he took some unnecessary hits and sacks that weren't on him. We didn't run a couple routes very well, especially on a couple deep balls when you go back and watch the tape, and how we ran them. And then the throw looks errant, but quite frankly, the route wasn't exactly where it was supposed to be either. And so, but that's the life you live as a quarterback, right? You assume the blame, right? And then you give the praise when it's good. And so, but for Quinn, that didn't rattle him. We got back at halftime, we got things kind of rectified, and came out and played a really clean first 3 drives there in the second half. So I think that he's in a good space and ready to go this week.
Yeah, the one part in here which I do agree with a lot is a deciding difference between Quinn Ewers last year and this year was his energy, his maturity, and how he came out in that second half, where clearly things were not going how he wanted. Clearly he thought, hey, I may be done by half. I may be able to go sit on the bench by halftime because I'm going to be up by 45 points at halftime. Oh, we're going to dominate them, no problem. And for, to not have that, to be fighting to just get a double-digit lead at halftime and push the lead out a little bit, kicking field goals at the end of halves, like that's not where you wanted to be at Quinn Ewers. And so there was a lot of growth in being able to rebound. Now you have to increase that even more every single game now. You have to be able to have a series and go on the sideline, and Sark talks about moving Milwee, quarterback's coach, and bring him down on the sideline so he can actually have conversations and kind of calm Quinn Ewers down, get him to reset his focus. It's not an easy thing to do, especially not when you're young, especially not when you're going to be in a hostile environment of Alabama. So he's going to have to work on the growth and maturity that he was able to go into a locker room, sit down, reset his mind. He was able to do that. He's going to have to do that at an accelerated rate on Saturday. He's going to have to do an accelerated rate throughout the season, especially on road games where it's very easy to get in your head when someone's sitting, 20 feet behind you, calling you every name in the book, and someone found a thread on Reddit where they know you're, no personal information about you, and they may be spewing that back at you. You've got to be able to be tough enough and resolved enough to go out there and do it. I think he's getting closer to that, but you want to see that. Now, on the other parts of that, it's being able to know the game well enough and have confidence in his play calling and have confidence in his reads that he can go out there and make the right plays at the right time. And as much we talk about Quinn, we have to talk about Alabama and Bama's quarterback and their offense and what we're going to see on the other side of the ball, because this is not a one-sided quarterback. We don't know what we're going to see. I think people wanted to see Quinn Ewers come out and everybody prove, and we all said, oh, he's the guy. But Alabama has some questions to answer too. Here's Sark talking about Alabama, their quarterback situation, and their offense.
Well, Jalen's a fantastic player. I got a chance to recruit him out of high school. He's got a dynamic arm. He can make every throw in the book, off platform, on the run, doesn't matter. He's a tremendous runner. He's an elite runner with the ball in his hand, with his speed and his physicality. And he's highly competitive. He's a really good leader. And the thing probably that concerns me the most about that is they're very balanced. They can run the ball with the runner. They've got really good speed on the perimeter with Isaiah Bond and Jermaine Burton and that crew that they have there. They utilize their tight ends, and they got a physical offensive line. And so you put all that together, and then ultimately the threat of the quarterback run. They've got a multitude of quarterback runs, whether they're zone reads, power reads, quarterback direct runs, quarterback scrambles on third downs. That's probably the biggest thing that's the toughest to prepare for, that we're going to have to spend extra time of how do we control and contain the quarterback with his legs. The rest of the offense is the offense which you see, and it's good, and it's very well designed, and they've got really good pieces. But the quarterback run, and they're going to run the quarterback. It's not a secret. What they did in week one is we're going to get something different, and that's okay. But making sure that we are accounting for number 4 in all of the quarterback run games is going to be a real key to the drill.
So there's Sark talking about Jalen Milroe and what's going to be happening with the Alabama offense as well. where you're worried a bit about their run game at quarterback. And with Quinn Ewers, we've had to worry. We've seen that Quinn Ewers now feels like he can run. And against Alabama, that may not be the best idea always. You may want to throw the ball out of bounds sometimes, especially, you want to be able to take your reads, sit in the pocket. May not be the best option for him. Texas is going to have to figure out with Jalen Milroe. But I think that's where you look at it and say, what you showed against Alabama what you showed against Rice with Quinn Ewers running, I think that may be a red herring. As much as I don't think Jalen Milroe, I think you're going to try and throw the ball more if you're Alabama until you get in situations where you have to do it. We do get a couple texts in. Remember, you can join the conversation whenever you want. 512-337-3776. Two texts that are basically similar things. How many times do you think they actually checked into a different play? Was they're going against Rice? They had to run a base, and no matter what defense was presented, maybe Sark didn't want to practice for the defense just to see how that line would treat them. Good test to determine how their training is going. You want to practice for everything because you don't want your quarterback to get hurt. So at a certain point, you can't always just trust for your offensive line. I hope they'll figure it out and we don't lose the quarterback that we're really relying on to win us a national championship in Sark's eyes. I don't want him to take 5-6 hits he doesn't need to take because we're going to test the O-line. So I don't think they didn't practice against it. I think, and I don't think that I'm asking them to audible into different plays. I'm asking them to check protections and not let guys come through unprotected. And that's really the problem that we saw in both of those, because neither one of those allow you to not check down and just miss guys that are coming in and, not have anyone in there to protect the quarterback, unprotected the quarterback. And even on a screen, you'd like to show that you're going to touch him, maybe put a hand on a chest to slow him down that half step. So Quinn Ewers, there was a screen pass on 4th down that they tried to run, a little out screen pass that fell apart because the pressure was too much too quick because they sent too many guys and he threw it at the feet. So I don't know. I think there's some truth to both of those things that were said. I do think there was some truth that they weren't going to check down and audible and do a lot of things against Rice because they figured they could do what they were going to do and still win. And you don't want to show it. I think there is something to be said that they, didn't want to overburden their offensive line with a system that they didn't think that Rice was going to run as much as they did. And once they had early success with it, it's a little too late to realize we should have taught them this and should have really drilled down, hey, this is what the looks we're going to be seeing at. I think Alabama's a little bit easier. Now, they do have a new OC. They have a new DC, so there are going to be things you weren't expected to see, and you do want to be ready for that. You do want to practice for it. We don't know what's coming at us. Be ready for it. But if that's what they were doing, that's an F. That's an F on just your natural training, and you should have a little bit more game planning done on those. But there's one other couple play real quick. You know what? Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll. We'll come back. We'll play a couple more clips for you. We'll read more of your text. 512-337-3776 is the text line if you want to join the conversation there. I think both of you guys that texted in are somewhat on the right track. But again, it's when you go through these, it's trying to figure out how much none of them make full sense because none of them are good when you realize you can't let your quarterback get killed. And unprotected, untouched rushers is a good way to get your quarterback killed. We're going to go into Patrick's Big Fat Poll today, though, talking about something else for a second. Change the subject for a second, then we'll get back to Texas football in the next segment.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. We asked you about who was the MVP of the Rice game. Overwhelmingly, you guys put in T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat said he got a C. So if that is a C, T'Vondre Sweat, who gets the MVP for the Texas game, I am all about that. Let him step up and let T'Vondre Sweat go after Alabama and try and get after Jalen Milroe. I'm all about that. The Big Fat Poll of the day today, Jose Altuve making history, gets home runs in 4 straight at-bats. He hits in the 9th inning of the game 2 days ago. Yesterday, hits home runs in the first 3 innings, 5 out of 6 at-bats in a row. He gets a home run. It is he was playing out of his mind. The Astros are averaging 6.26 runs per game since he returned off the injured list on July 26th. And by the way, we can say the AOS leading Astros. First time we could say that this season. They're going to be taking on the Rangers. Big game tonight. 6:30 pregame right here on the Horn, taking over for me a little bit early. Verlander and Scherzer. I'm sure if you want to listen to that game, you already know it's Verlander versus Scherzer. There's a bunch of weird stats and qualifiers that everybody put on their stats, but that's happening. Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day today. Join the conversation, 512-337-3776. Who is the greatest male athlete under 5'8"? I went with 5'8". I think that's about it. Jose Altuve ranges 5'5" to 5'6". I think some people may try and throw him in there at 5'7", but I don't believe he's a 5'7". But I'm going to go under 5'8". For the greatest male athlete of all time under 5'8". There's some good names out there. We know Jose Altuve's in there. Jose Altuve is up there. He's getting closer. He's getting closer and closer to a Hall of Famer. And I don't want to get on my soapbox about this. I know people hate it, and I've been told at parties that it's not a fun party conversation. But I will stand by. There is more evidence that Jose Altuve was not a cheater than there's evidence that he was. Now, the rest of the team, holy crap, they cheated a bunch. I agree that happened. But there's way more evidence that the Yankees, Dodgers, and Red Sox all were cheating the same way the Astros were, just not as fully advanced. Jose Altuve, though, the buzzer thing was a completely made-up fictional thing. He just didn't want to take off his jersey. I don't know why, but he didn't want to. It's a made-up thing. And there's also tons of video of him signaling off when you hear the trash can and him yelling at the bench and telling him to stop. So, and if you listen to the beats, there's a website that had them all up. I don't know if it's still active, but he's not there. But we'll get past that. Jose Altuve is on the list. Muggsy Bogues is 5'3". Spud Webb was 5'7". How about some UFC fighters? Demetrius Johnson, 5'3". Original flyweight champion. Defended it 11 times in a row. Demetrius Johnson. Henry Cejudo, 5'4". He's a UFC champ and an Olympic gold medalist. Only guy to ever do that. How about over in baseball? Joe Morgan, 5'7". Joe Morgan won the MVP in 75, 76. Wins World Series in 75 and 76. Joe Morgan, one of the greatest Hall of Famers. And how about this name? Lionel Messi. Messi is 5'7". Messi's in this group, man. He's in the under 5'8" group. The short kings group, we're calling it. I know some people want Deuce Vaughn to be in this list. He's not there yet. You know, Darren Sproles, I don't know if he's going to get in there. There's not a lot in football. I did say male. So Mary Lou Retton is not going to be in there. I got to qualify it with male because there's female. There's a bunch of really good gymnasts, female athletes who are under 5'8", because they're just, women are shorter than men. I don't want to be sexist here, but I'm pretty sure that's women on average are shorter than men. So that is our question. Who is the greatest male athlete of all time under 5'8"? Messi's in that group. Jose Altuve's in that group. Joe Morgan's in that group. Some UFC fighters, but tell us who we got under 5'8". I like some of the answers that are coming in. We'll read those in a little bit, but send those in, 512-337-3776. We come back, we'll get a little bit more audio from Sark. We've got some audio from Jerry Hamilton on Ian Rod B this morning, and a whole lot more coming up here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex in the Horn. Loving the text line hit lighting up for us right now. 512-337-3776. Who is the greatest male athlete of all time under 5'8"? You guys are sending in some good stuff. We're going to get to that in a minute. We're playing working songs. It's a Labor Day week, Labor Day short week, so we're playing some working songs for you. I always got crap for when I was on the road with the band touring that I would put in Huey Lewis CDs when we're on the road. This is before streaming. And like Huey Lewis, man. And then we get like Next Town Over and everybody's singing along to it. People hating on Huey Lewis. The guy's a legend. One of the best, Huey Lewis and the News. There used to be a band here in town. My buddy George DeVore did it. And they would do Chewy Spewis and the Screws every Halloween. And I miss those shows. Those were some fun shows, seeing a George DeVore tribute band. Not very common. I don't know how many George DeVore tribute bands there were, but they were the best. Let's get back into a little Texas football talk. We will get into your answers just in a little bit. We want to play a couple of more things for you. One of the things that Sark talked about on Monday was about balancing getting into a giant game against Alabama and what you need to do to be ready for playing in Alabama, getting your guys ready, getting it, set up for everything, and then also being ready for the season and understanding you have to balance the growth of your players, that it is only week 2, that you have an entire season. You need to win the Big 12. You need to do all these things and mix that with being ready for Alabama and trying to push those together. Here's Sark talking about balancing the growth versus the opponent.
We balance it by staying focused on what we need to do. I think one of the things in these games is people always want us to talk about the opponent, and we got a good opponent. We understand that. They're well coached, they're a good team, but for us to be at our best, we need to focus on what we need to do, not worry so much about what they're going to do or they might do. What are we going to do and how are we going to go about our business? Well, for us to go handle our business and to do that, we need to fix the issues that we had, and then we can pour into us even more to get ourselves ready to play. So that side of it is not that difficult that way. And when you continue to speak that way to the players and they understand that idea is not going to change because it's Alabama one week or it was Rice the next week or whomever's down the road, that we're consistent in our messaging, then it becomes normal for them. And that's how I felt like our players were today. They understand. They want to be coached. They're a coachable team. They want to improve. They want to see their mistakes and then how can they improve that, whether it's a fundamental mistake or a scheme mistake, and then how they can improve that to be even a better player. And I think our coaches do a good job of trying to illustrate that to them. And so that's what I saw today, that they were dialed into meetings. They went out to walk through into practice with a mentality to try to get better.
So that is always a difficult part in these early season non-conference matchups, is you understand this is a tone setter. This is a tone setter for the rest of your season. This is something that you really need to get right in a lot of ways to make sure that it doesn't hit into week 4 and week 5. We know week 3 you're playing Wyoming. They've already got one upset on their belt, so you can't take that off. But you don't want your flaws to continue. You don't want your O-line to miss a wide open linebacker that comes in and takes Quinn Ewers out for several weeks again. You don't want to do that. Now, there is a benefit that let me knock on all the wood. And I know, again, I've explained this before. It's about wood sprites and a thing. I've said it before. But you have to knock on wood after you say it. But if the one benefit Texas has going in this year that it didn't have last year is, I don't know, Malik Murphy might be as big as a linebacker. So if it does come down to that, the defensive players might be a little bit more scared of Malik Murphy. But we're not going to go there. We don't want to have anything bad happen to Quinn Ewers. But we can look at what this means, and not only for your team going forward, but the recruits. Andrew Bone at Andrew J. Bone tweeted out the Alabama text list is absolutely insane. Between the 24 and 26 recruiting classes, there is currently 15 players ranked either number 1 or number 2 in the country at their position. More than 40 elite prospects confirmed, with many more to add. That is going to be a fertile recruiting ground at the game for Alabama and Texas. You want to go out there and show out. And even if you do have that loss, and it is, if it just happens and Alabama's a better team on the Saturday, it is what it is. You need to go out there and show that, no, you're hanging with the big boys. You are ready to play SEC football, that you are ready to be at that level. It is a big game for Texas in a lot of ways. However, you do have to protect yourself that you are going to have to play Big 12 football after this. And you need to get the growth in your team and, figure out the problems on the O-line that was there. You're going to have to figure out, you can't spend all week on that O-line solely working on what Alabama brings. You're going to have to work a little bit more on just picking out anything and getting a little bit wider variety. There's just a lot that you have to work on in the next few days before you get to Alabama. It's a hard task, but to bandage understanding, to put enough importance on this game in practice and in game planning, but to not overextend it to where you are now handicapping yourself, that you basically have to unteach certain things that were solely for an Alabama game. But part of this is trying to coach things consistently throughout offseason. I think it's something that Sark has done well, and he's learned from his mentors in Pete Carroll and Nick Saban. He talked some about mentorship and coaching and all that. But one of the things he brought up, what I thought was interesting, because it's definitely been seen at Texas, is Saban's consistency. And this is something that Sark has really pushed on for Texas. And it's showing, especially in the defense, a lot of rewards right now. Here's Sark on talking about Saban and his consistency and being able to continue to win at a high level.
I think as far as Coach Saban, it's pretty remarkable what he has done. When you think about the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators, the special teams coordinators, not to mention the position coaches that have come through. I think as a head coach, and you think, man, if I could ever have the longevity that he'd have, man, I'd sure love to have that style of consistency. And I think it all goes back to him. He knows exactly who he is. He does not change for you. You're going to change for him. And inevitably, whether it's the system that you want to bring in to run on offense, defense, special teams, whatever that is, or how you want to coach a player, you're going to coach it the way he wants you to coach it, and you're going to call plays the way he wants you to call it, and that allows him to continue to coach everybody on the team. But yet, as a new face comes in, things don't change as much as you'd think because they're really ran his way. And again, that's a credit to him for sticking to it and not diverting from who he is.
That right there is really something that you can tell Sark got from Saban, is consistency of keeping the same coaches, but keeping his message in his way. And I think it's something that why the coaches are staying with him is because they understand the messaging and they understand he's hoping, and his message to his coaches should be and seems to be, I'm going to continue to coach my way, and you guys are not going to have to leave because I fire you. You're all going to leave when you get better jobs, because that's how I left. I left coaching with Saban because I got hired here. This is where I'm going to see. All you guys are going to move up from where you're at right now, but part of that is I know you guys are going to be leaving, so we have to do everything the way I want to do them. On the flip of that, you have to learn from all of the coaches underneath you, so you as a head coach can improve. That's the question of what can Sark do this season. Is Sark going to be able to continue to grow and learn from the coaches that are around him? Can you bring in a Paul Chryst, who is, known for his power run game at Wisconsin, and bring him in and let him teach you another part of this game and get you hyped up about doing it? Because until you're excited about running the ball through the tackles, running it through the guards, running just kind of straightforward plays and plays that aren't necessarily explosive plays, which are Sark's favorite, and not running something that's major, but are big things to help you win first and second down. Help you beat down an O-line so that you don't, when you go for it on fourth down like you did twice against Rice and didn't get it either time because your O-line didn't get the pressure, if you have a team that is building on that throughout the season, those fourth downs, those third and shorts, you're able to pick up a lot easier because you're starting to get excited about those plays. So you want to call them because you're excited at the results. You're excited at a 5-yard run that you can get a CJ Baxter or a Jonathan Brooks to pull their average up to 5 or 6 yards, and then they break one because they keep running at it. And you got 2 or 3 guys because we saw what Jaden Blue could do. I want to see if he can continue to get excited about other things. We saw him throw intermediate passes, and it worked really well against Rice. Can he be excited about doing that and grow from his coaches, grow from experience? We've known that Nick Saban can do that. So it is consistency that no matter who the offensive coordinator is, no matter who the defensive coordinator is, which is what Sark's telling you. We know that Tommy Rees is coming in, but I know what happened when I came as offensive coordinator at Alabama. I know what happened when I got there, says Sark. He says, when I got there, Saban said, all right, how are you going to do what we do better? Because we're still going to do what we do, and you just have to do it better. But we're not changing up our philosophies. So he knows that going into these games, that even with the new OC and a new DC, he's got at least somewhat of a game plan to go against. And that goes into when he was asked, what do you know going into Bama? And what are your headspace is at with the team with the new OC, with the new DC? What do you know going into Bama?
And I think what you take is they're going to be well coached. They're going to give you a multitude of defenses, fronts, coverages, pressures. And they're going to play hard. That goes without saying. So, you try to prepare the players for, maybe some tendencies and some expectations of things they might get. But at the end of the day, it's you got to earn what you get in this game, and you got to earn your yards, and that comes through execution. That's probably the biggest thing. You have to execute. There's not the ball. You can't hope the ball is going to bounce the right way. You got to execute, and you got to run it right. You got to throw it right. You got to protect right. You got to block right. And you got to do things the right way against this defense. They're going to make you earn it.
But this is the edge that Sark has of knowing what a new offensive coordinator and a new coordinator at Alabama and a new coordinator under Nick Saban. He knows what the initial interview was. He knows what the meetings were. He knows what you're allowed to change and what you're not allowed to change. So what he knows going in is, they're gonna focus on certain things. But I've got a couple things in my hat that I know Nick Saban told me when I came in. We're still gonna do this. We're still gonna focus what we do. And now over time, they've gone away from the team that was producing, just power backs. But that's because the game has changed, and Saban has changed with it. Sark is trying to change with the game as well. We hope he can continue to do it. But we've seen what Saban does enough that we have enough of a ballpark idea that we can prepare for this Alabama team and really hope that this is not a change where Saban decides he's going to allow his offensive and defensive coordinator to pull out something new. But he may, because he knows that Sark knows the game plan if they stick to the bread and butter. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll read your answers on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. 512-337-3776 is the text line. We are asking in honor of Jose Altuve putting up insane numbers these last few games because he likes to kill the ball and globe life. Who's the greatest male athlete of all time under 5'8"? We got some good answers so far. Hopefully we'll get some more here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Back here on the Sports Complex, playing some working songs for you for Labor Day week. Some Rush there for you. Never thought I'd be playing Rush on the radio. Not the biggest fan of Geddy Lee's voice, but you know what? The band's good. Just can't stand the voice. Just can't stand the voice. You guys have been killing it on the Specs text line for us today. We are questioning big fat poll of the day today. Who is the greatest male athlete of all time under 5'8"? Let's read some of your texts. You can join the conversation. 512-337-3776. Joe number 2, Rod Babers. Joe, he is 5'9". We know he was measured 5'10" when he was at Texas, but they gave him 5'9". He's still above it. He doesn't fall into the short king territory. Greatest athlete under 5'8", Messi. Messi may have to run away with this one. You know, he kind of ruins the thing because he is so really good, but I couldn't go really much shorter than 5'8". 5'8" is right at a line where there's 5'8", there's even more people that were doing pretty good. Bruce Lee is a good one. Bruce Lee, I believe, was 5'7". I didn't put him on my list, but I do like Bruce Lee on that list. Man, those old footage. Have you ever watched the old stuff of him working, training for Green Hornet and all the stuff with the old footage where the aspect rate or whatever the frame rate of the cameras wasn't good enough. So, you know, it literally looked like he wasn't even moving and he could do things. Crazy stuff with Bruce Lee. My pickleball 5'7" self. Yeah, no. You play pickleball, you're not in the conversation. No pickleball athletes, no cornhole athletes, no one on the Ocho. The Ocho does not get counted in our greatest athletes. Messi stands way above anybody even named. Not an Astros fan, but Altuve is well on his way to the Hall of Fame. But Messi is a transcendent talent. He's one of a kind. Look, I get it. Messi is probably the guy he's running away with. I can't take him out of this conversation. I'm just relying on sports fans in Texas to not be soccer fans enough to give Altuve some votes. Chan, only male PD. Sexist? No. There's too many good athletes under 5'8" for women. That's why it's male. I had to put qualifiers on it. It's a baseball thing, too. When you put on qualifiers, I read a thing about Verlander and Scherzer, and it's like two players who are both Cy Young winners who had played on the same team that season, and then we're playing matched up against each other but not neither one on the team. They just got traded. Like, but at what point do we give up with the stat? When we're at the fifth qualifier, can we give up on the stat? It's not as revolutionary as you thought it was. And Sugar Ray Leonard is 5'10". Manny Pacquiao, I think, is 5'5", so he's up there. Some good boxers up there as well. Mike Tyson is 5'10", so he's out of there, but I like where you're going. Diego Maradona was 5'5" as well. Pele is 5'8". He's right on that line. But Messi's better than Maradona. We know that. Pele, you can have the argument. You can have the LeBron James, Michael Jordan. I don't know enough about soccer to be that guy. Muggsy is the best. Muggsy was awesome. Watching Muggsy Bogues play is just so much fun to watch someone that small play at that level. Tanya Harding is the toughest dude under 5'8". I think Tanya Harding's Hitman is the toughest dude under 5'8". Willie Shoemaker, the jockey. Are we putting jockeys in on it now? Manny Pacquiao in boxing. NASCAR Hall of Famer Jeff Gordon was 5'7". I mean, he did really well. I don't know enough about NASCAR. We put him in the Messi range. I don't know enough. I know Messi is at another level. But, yeah, the athlete thing with NASCAR drivers, yeah, it'll be another one. You tell me if NASCAR is an athlete. I don't know. It feels like it's wrong to say that, but then you see the stuff and the training they have to do, and then you look at them, and they don't look like it. But if we're calling kickers athletes, anybody can be. Angus Young. The Angus Young, Malcolm Young, and Brian Johnson. I like it. AC/DC, I'm a fan of that. TJ Ford, there you go, Texas fans getting in there. I don't know if TJ Ford's under 5'8", though. I don't think he's under 5'8". I've met TJ Ford several times. I'm going to give him credit that he's over 5'8". Rey Mysterio, I'll go with that one, but he can't get his kid in line. You got to get Dominic in line to be the best. Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb dunks. Barry Sanders has to be over 5'8". He has to be over 5'8". I don't know how tall Barry Sanders is, but he has to be over 5'8". And Bruce Lee with his nunchuck videos where he's striking the matches, he is insane. Bruce Lee is insane. I like all of your texts, guys. It's going to be hard for me to narrow it down. I know Messi's on it. I know Altuve's on it. I don't know who else is going to be on this under 5'8" list of the best athletes of all time because I don't know. Muggsy's not on that level. Muggsy's not even, he wasn't an all-star every year. Like, you have to get I need somebody who's at the Hall of Fame level under 5'8" from basketball or football, and I don't think they exist. 75% of the cast of Willow. Solid, D. Fry. Solid one there. I don't know if they were athletes, Willow. They had a run in that movie. I don't know. We got to take another break. When we come back, we're getting out early for Rangers and Astros. We'll read some more of your text. We will get through a little bit of NFL news, and we'll see where it goes from there. Join the conversation. Tell us what you got and your predictions. We're going to talk some predictions for the NFL as well. Give us some of your big predictions for the NFL. 512-337-3776 is where you can text it in. 512-337-3776. We'll read those texts. Come back with you right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the horn for some Sports Complex. We got you for another few minutes before we give you up for Astros and Rangers. Huge matchup tonight. Rangers got knocked out of the playoffs last night. They're still, of course, in the playoff chase, but the Blue Jays win, knock them up. A huge rally at the end for the Reds to knock the Mariners down a game, gives the Astros the lead in the AL West. Just a crazy night. Ellie De La Cruz is so much fun to watch. Watching him come out, basically get a leg out an infield single, then steal second, and then jump around and score on a kind of a lazy ball in the gap for the Reds last night to beat the Mariners in the ninth, at the bottom of the ninth, was a lot of fun to watch. So big matchup. The Rangers need to get a win in a bad way. Max Scherzer on the mound for the Rangers. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Astros. So a lot to check out tonight on the Astros game. I'll be enjoying that as well. But you can hear it right here. Pregame starts at 6:30. You guys killing it on the text line today. 512-337-3776. Willie Shoemaker on the horse is 6'2". That's solid. Willie Shoemaker on the horse is 6'2". I like that one. Google says Barry Sanders is exactly 5'8", so I'm going to go with Barry Sanders. Now, I said under 5'8", because 5'8" is where we start to get into some better players. So 5'8" was a cutoff, and then Messi screwed it up because he's 5'7", so I have to go under 5'7", which then Altuve's under 5'7". I think he wins that one. But 5'8", I may put Barry Sanders on the list because if we're counting him, and we know they lie about their height. He's clearly got to be like 5'7", and he's old now, so he's got to have shrunk some. You shrink a little bit when you get older. Barry Sanders may go on that poll. We'll see. We'll see if we put him up there. It's either Jose Altuve or John Velasquez. We will not say that word. We can't say that word anymore, D-Fry. The only word I've ever got yelled at for saying on the radio. But that little person won $500 million on the dirt. Yeah, and he may be a Hall of Famer, but won the freaking slam dunk contest. That's a big-time athlete. Spud Webb did win the slam dunk contest. Go back and watch it, though. They were impressive dunks, but he couldn't. Vince Carter would have beat him. Vince Carter would have got him out of there. Guys, send in your NFL predictions. I'm going to try and get to some of those, too. I do want to tell you something about that came out today from Dallas Cowboys. As we get to football season, I'm excited for tomorrow. Big matchup, Kansas City versus the Detroit Lions. Seeing the beginning of that, we all want to see what Gibbs does in the backfield for Detroit. See if he's out of there. They got rid of DeAndre Swift. They trade away a running back. They have Montgomery there now, so they've got some options. But I'm very curious to see what that team looks like if Jared Goff is able to continue to play at the rate that he's been playing. A lot to watch for in that game. But then Travis Kelce is listed as questionable today. Kadarius Toney off the injury list completely, full participant in practice. I got Kadarius Toney in one fantasy league. I got Sky Moore in another. If Travis Kelce doesn't play, do I go ahead and put in one of my wide receivers? Because whoever I put in, the other one's going to do well. We know that. Or it'll be someone else on that roster that does really well. I don't know what to do tomorrow, but we'll figure that out. Mike McCarthy did speak to the media today, though, and one of the things he talked about was the new theme for the Dallas Cowboys. And if you see, the pictures are all up over X now or Twitter, that you can see the pictures around Dallas Cowboys training facility. I'm sure they're going to be at AT&T Stadium. We've seen that Micah Parsons came out in his new hoodie. They put out in everyone's locker. The theme for the Dallas Cowboys this season is Carpe Omnia. Carpe Omnia, which means seize everything. Seize everything. We know Carpe Diem is seize a day. Carpe Omnia, seize everything. And I like it. It's a football kind of term, right? It's going out and you take what you want. You go out there and you got to earn it. And you got to get on the field and you got to go. I'm going to play you Mike McCarthy talking about it. I was disappointed because I feel like Mike McCarthy at some point has to be a good orator, and he has to be able to go into a team meeting, or like he didn't go into Jerry Jones talking like this. There's no way that he got the head coach job at Dallas Cowboys talking like this. But I love that thing. I love the Carpe Omnia. I love it. Seize everything. Go get it. I'm a fan of it for the Cowboys. Here's Mike McCarthy explaining what he told the team today about Carpe Omnia.
the theme is Carpe Omnia, seize everything. So presented it to the team today, and it just really has a few parts to it. And frankly, probably the players should speak on it, because I'd be curious how much they paid attention. But it's a good theme. I think themes are important. They come to you at different points of the off season. So this came a little different. I think it needs to illustrate where you feel your football team's at, where they are in their, progression towards winning a championship. And, I think it's very, very difficult to win a Super Bowl in this league. There's no question about it. That's proven each and every year, but sustaining success is, I think personally, in my experience, is a bigger challenge. So just giving them, the touch tone to just connect with, Carpe, seize, Omnia, everything. So is the way we're looking at this season. And it's, we have an empty picture frame in the front of the team room, and illustrating pictures pictures say 1,000 words, but the reality of it is an empty frame is everything, because it's all the possibilities, capabilities, what's in front of us, and are we going to do what we need to do every single day, everything that we possibly can do to fill that frame and be part of the history and tradition of the Dallas Cowboys. So little cliff notes here for you. So.
First off, let me say, Mike McCarthy has got you set for the next time you forget an anniversary, a birthday, Valentine's Day. Next time you forget it, blank picture frame, Carpe Omnia. We got to seize everything, baby. We got to seize it all. So I brought you the flame so we can fill it up. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So we need to fill the blank picture frame. I'm solid move. The next time you're in your relationship, you don't have a present. Blank picture frame, Carpe Omnia. I love the phrase. This is coaching 101 stuff. This is, have a phrase that you can recenter yourself when you're on the field, and when something goes wrong and they score a touchdown, you can go in at halftime and you're down by, they kick a field goal to go up at halftime, and your team just doesn't have that intensity and that energy. Carpe Omnia. And everybody can get behind it. You can feel it. And, we're going to seize it. We are going to seize the opportunity. We're going to seize the game. We're going to seize the ball. We're going to seize everything we can, because we are going to demand. We're going to conquer. We're going to take over this game. I like it. I don't like him explaining it. I'm really hoping he did it in a better way. Because if you came home to your wife and you forgot your anniversary and you pulled out the blank picture frame, and you said, it's this thing, Carpe Omnia, and it means it's Latin, and you gotta sell it. I'm hoping he sold it to the team, but I'm on board with Carpe Omnia. I'm on board with it. I'll tell you about something else I'm on board with. 40 Acres collection, 40 Acres apparel. I am on it. I am on board with this. I looked good on Saturday, felt good on Saturday. And Longhorn fans, I want to tell you again about some of the best Longhorn apparel you can find. You can find it at the University of Texas Co-op. The 40 Acres collection offers exclusive and custom-designed apparel for the whole family, limited edition, on-trend, fashion performance luxury apparel, wicking SPF 50, and easy care. You're going to look really good. You're going to feel really good. They got different designs. You go down to the University of Texas Co-op. There's not a game this week, so if you didn't go down last week and get you a shirt, you're going to want to wear it this week, because you're going to want to go peacocking around after Texas beats Alabama. You're going to want to peacock a little bit. There's no better clothes to peacock in than 40 Acres apparel. And the best part is it's gear that gives back. 40 Acres has made a financial commitment to the University of Texas Co-op Course Material Scholarship, giving free course materials to Longhorn students. Every penny of profit from the co-op goes directly to course material scholarships, and the co-op thanks 40 Acres for expanding scholarships this academic year. So get on down to the University of Texas Co-op, get yourself some 40 Acres apparel, get yourself a little, it feels good on you. You're going to get that wicking, you get the SPF, you get it so you can get out in the sun, and you can peacock a little bit all Sunday, all Saturday night, all Sunday. Get out there and show off what you're working with when Texas beats Alabama. Get onto the University of Texas Co-op and get geared up with the new 2024 collection of 40 Acres apparel. Hook 'em. Other big news in the NFL today, Nick Bosa gets his contract. We saw that there was questions if he was going to show up for week one, and basically he missed 1 day of practice. Wasn't ready for week one. They were fine with the holdout until then. He misses that. He gets paid today. Nick Bosa gets 5 years, $170 million. He is now the highest paid defensive player. He's up there. He is the number one paid defensive line, and he cleared it by a little bit. He's making, I think, $3 million more a year than Aaron Donald is. So he is getting paid to show up. I know that Kyle Shanahan was asked if he's going to play week 1, and the response was basically, unless he shows up with a beer gut, he's playing week 1. We're paying him so he can get out there on the field. Jerry Jones must have spit out his black label when he saw this number, because that is now around the starting point of the conversation for Micah Parsons. Now, you're going to negotiate it back and forth and guarantees. I believe there's a $50 million signing bonus on that as well. All of those things you have going for you, but that is a big contract. It is something else that you're going to have to look at in the future of the Cowboys and how they're built, of if you're going to be able to keep a Brandon Cooks, if you're going to be able, what you're going to be looking at the linebacker core now that it's pretty beat up. Are you going to try and keep safeties? Or are you going to have to keep rotating players? And again, all this changes too if Dan Quinn, if Mike McCarthy stays the coach for the entire season for the Cowboys. And Dan Quinn now finishes the season. They have a good season. Now, does Dan Quinn take one of those jobs now? Does Dan Quinn walk away from the Cowboys? And if he does, and you don't have the new deal with Micah Parsons, how much more does Micah Parsons ask for if his guy, the guy he feels made him that, Dan Quinn, if he walks away, does he not want it? Because he said before in interviews he wants to play his entire career for Dan Quinn. But I mean, that's, when you're talking about $170 million, things can change. But this is big for the Cowboys. You're happy that you got the Trayvon Diggs contract already done, because you know what that one is. So now you're working on Micah Parsons, and you're looking at the Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott, I don't think any news was going to happen this season. It didn't seem likely. They were going to talk about it unless Dak was going to take the team-friendly contract, which he has no reason to do. It doesn't make sense for him to do. Then he wasn't going to sign a contract, and they want to get another year out of him. If the interceptions don't step up or don't change, then yeah, you're not going to move on. But Nick Bosa getting 5 years, $170 million, going back for the 49ers, putting them as one of those teams that you feel kind of locks them back into that number one spot in the NFC West, and makes it a little bit tougher for any other team in that NFC West to figure out what they're going to do to compete for the Rams, who get bad news today about Cooper Kupp. That Cooper Kupp is officially out for week 1. Sorry if you drafted him in the first round. You should. That one of those guys in fantasy drafts, why you draft later on, is Cooper Kupp has been dropping, precipitous drop in his fantasy football rankings, is one of the top picks. That Rams team is a real big question mark going into this season for me. Because, they had the running back year that went horribly awry. And players continued to get hurt, and Aaron Donald didn't play as much. We know Matt Stafford had the injuries, and it just kind of fell apart. But now, if you're the Rams, and you're aware that you're willing to spend money, you're trying to get out of the back end of these bad contracts, and the contracts where you did the stretch and you paid guys and cap over cash over cap, and all of those things. You tried to build all those pieces up, right? You're going to try and get and move up a little bit. But is this a season where you may, knowing that Caleb Williams came out today and basically said, I will stay in college if the right team doesn't have the pick, is there a little bit of you, if Cooper Kupp actually has to miss the season and you're not sold and you don't know about Matt Stafford, and rumor was that they tried to trade Matt Stafford at a point? Or is there a point where the Rams maybe just, say, we want our ring, we tried to run it back, fate has not been well to us, we don't have the pieces anymore, let's tank a little bit? Seattle's in that division, they're playing well. San Francisco's in that division, playing great. Do you maybe tank if you're the Rams and go find that next quarterback to give Sean McVay? And if you're Sean McVay, do you realize my time is limited? I'm going to be an 8-win coach, an 8-win coach, an 8-win coach. I don't want to be Jeff Fisher. I don't want to be that. I don't know if there may be a path. If you drop the first few games without Cooper Kupp, he may end up on this injured list. You may go out and try and tank this season, and you may have a tank off in the same division of the NFC West with Arizona and the Rams. Now, the Rams may come out and stick it to everybody and show that Matt Stafford still got it going. I know my man Harge was always big on Matt Stafford and that he could do these things. I like Matt Stafford as well. I don't know at the injuries at his age if he's going to be able to come back with a depleted core. I'm not sold on Cam Akers at all. I don't know why everybody all of a sudden believes Cam Akers, who hasn't been able to find the field and kept fumbling the ball, is all of a sudden is going to be fixed and he's going to be a fine running back now. I don't get why that theory is out there. But I'm not sold on this Rams team right now. And the Cooper Kupp news comes at a really bad place. Like, it's different. We can look over at the Chiefs and see that Travis Kelce is out and has his injuries. Say, all right, that may be a problem they need to kind of look at. But they got Kadarius Toney, if he can stay healthy. Sky Moore is a rookie they drafted. Maybe they'll get some help out there. Not the same way with the Rams. No, Vance Jefferson will be okay, but enough to save that team? I don't know. We got to get off. Rangers taking over the airwaves. 6:30 pregame, playing a big game against the Astros. We'll be back tomorrow, though. Full show tomorrow. No Rangers game means full show tomorrow. More preview of the Rice-Alabama game. We'll get you ready for Chiefs and Lions. More NFL and NCAA football. And, of course, your texts today were awesome. We'll keep those going tomorrow. All that coming up on the Sports Complex. Be kind to each other. Be safe. Keep your underwear clean. And we'll see you right back here on the Sports Complex tomorrow.